I switched to the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 over a month ago, and there's a lot that I like about it, but it's not perfect. So, will I be sticking to it? Let's find out. Now, initially, I want to talk about the design, and I've said this before, but to me, this is the biggest upgrade to a Fold series device since the Fold 1. Samsung was clearly falling behind the competition, but they finally caught up and exceeded in some areas. Like, I still can't get over just how impossibly thin this device is. Every time I've shown it to somebody, they've been impressed, and that includes iPhone users. This blue shadow color has really grown on me. It's also available in a jet black and a silver shadow, which I do think look good. There's also an exclusive mint color available from Samsung.com. If you are thinking of getting that, then you can check out my affiliate link down in the description below. That's still gonna give you double the storage and up to $50 in instant Samsung credit. Now, there has been some controversy as to which is the thinnest foldable. Is it this? Is it something else? Honestly speaking, I really don't care about that. What's important to me is that this feels like a regular smartphone when it is closed. And that's what the dream has always been, having a regular smartphone which opens up into a tablet. And I think that's what we have here with the Fold 7. Now, one minor thing about the design is the camera module being on one side. This is a super wobbly phone. Now, this may not matter to you at all, and that's absolutely fine. I generally don't use my smartphone when it's flat on a desk, but if I'm working on my computer or my laptop and I get a message and I want to quickly reply to it while it's there, it wobbles so much, it's actually impossible for me to use it this way. Now, if you get a case for the Z Fold 7, this will reduce that wobble. It might not get rid of it completely, and I would probably advise using this with a case because it's so thin and light, I kind of feel like it's just gonna slip out of my hands. Now, you may be somebody that's brave and will rock this without a case. I'm not that somebody because I do tend to drop my phones a lot. The Z Fold 7, from what I can see from durability tests, is pretty durable, but I personally wouldn't risk it. Now, which case would I recommend? Well, this is a bit of a tough one because I started off with the Slim Armor Pro from Spigen, which protects the device really well, but it does make the device quite a bit thicker. And to me, it almost defeats the purpose of using such a thin device. Now, I wanted to try to get a hold of the Spigen Air Skin, which to me looks like the most practical solution, but it's just been constantly out of stock. I've even reached out to Spigen, they've not been able to get me one. Either way, I'll leave those cases linked in the description below. But if you do have the Z Fold 7 and you've been using a case that you really like, I would appreciate some recommendations in the comments. Now let's talk about the displays. So one of my biggest complaints about previous Samsung Galaxy Fold devices is that the cover display was just way too narrow and not very practical or usable in the day-to-day. And finally, with the Z Fold 7, we have a 21:9 aspect ratio. Now granted, this is still a little bit narrower compared to a regular smartphone, but it is completely usable. Honestly, sometimes I've forgotten that I'm using a foldable device and I'll just be using this as normal and be like, what am I doing? I can open this up. But regardless, the fact is that this is now a smartphone that opens up into a tablet. With previous Galaxy Fold devices, I always felt that they were tablets that folded in half. Now, usage is going to vary from person to person. My personal usage with the Z Fold 7 is around 60% on this cover display when I'm doing my day-to-day. But when I want to be more productive, then that's when I will use the main display. Let's talk about this main display. Now, I absolutely love this main display. It's big, bright, and beautiful. And yes, the crease is still visible, especially if you look at it from an angle, but this has never been much of a big deal for me because when you are looking at this device head on, you barely notice the crease. You also don't touch it as often because your thumbs are usually towards the sides. So for people complaining about the crease, I'm not sure. It really doesn't affect me personally. And I've also seen some people complaining about the fact that because this is wider, it means that you get bigger black bars when you're watching videos. And again, that doesn't make any sense to me because even if you do have those black bars, you're still getting a better viewing experience compared to a regular smartphone. Now, I'm sure like the next person, I do end up spending a lot of time just endlessly scrolling through TikTok videos. And if you look at a comparison of watching TikTok on this main display compared to a regular smartphone like the S25 Ultra, you'll see that not only do you get a bigger video, but a lot of the distractions like the like button, the comment button, all move towards the sides. So you get more of an uninterrupted viewing experience on this main display regardless. But being a foldable device, you can do other things while you're watching videos. I mean, you can just prop the phone up like this, so you can watch the video while you're doing other things without having to use a fancy case. You can multitask, so when you're watching a video, you can be scrolling through the comments or social media feeds. And for me, that big display is not just for watching videos, it's about being productive. Let me give you some real life scenarios which I love this for. Now, I don't know how it is for you guys, but for me personally, when I'm going through emails, I don't like doing that on my smartphone. I need to be on a laptop unless it's just going to be a reply with a couple of lines. However, using a foldable like the Z Fold 7, I can be much more productive because when I'm opening my emails, I can have them along the side with the preview on the right-hand side. You can't do this on a regular smartphone. Replying to emails is much easier because you have a large keyboard with that large screen. And one of the things that I absolutely love the Z Fold 7's large display for is when I'm showing images to friends and family. I was just showing some photos to my brothers the other day, and instead of showing it on a small screen, I was just like, hey, look at this. I mean, just look how good that looks and how much easier it is to display things on this big, beautiful display. Now, when it comes to multitasking, I generally will only have a maximum of 2 windows open at the same time. I know you can open 3, but this to me is just not practical. I cannot think of any scenarios that would be useful for me where I would have 3 windows open, and that's because the smaller windows would be too small for my liking. If there are scenarios that you use on a foldable that you would recommend, then drop those in the comments below. Now, on the topic of multitasking, everything that I've thrown at this device over the past month has been absolutely fine. And that is thanks to the Snapdragon 8 Elite mobile platform. It's something that I was expecting, but being the flagship chipset, you can game on this device, you can edit video, you can multitask, and all of these things are going to run smoothly on the Z Fold 7. And that's also important because this device will have support for 7 generations of OS updates with 7 years of security updates. So if you are careful with it, it will last you a long while, and that performance should keep up for a few years at least. Now, that is another big advantage that you're getting on this versus many of the foldables, is that you do get Android 16 with One UI 8 out of the box. It's one of my favorite skins with that long software support. Now, when it comes to AI, I've said this before, but Galaxy AI, in my opinion, is the most complete AI package on any smartphone at this point in time. I've covered a lot of these Galaxy AI features in other videos, and realistically speaking, I don't use all of these every day. Some of my favorites are Circle to Search from Google. I use it all the time. It's super useful. Now, on the Z Fold 7, you can also use Circle to Search within games to get some tips. One of my other favorites is Browsing Assist to be able to summarize web pages, especially when you're reading them on this beautiful display. And also side-by-side editing, so you can see your original and the edited image side by side, which you're not going to be able to do on a regular smartphone. Being a Samsung device, and considering that Samsung has been doing foldables longer than anybody else, a lot of apps are also optimized for this large display. Google Gemini is optimized for this large display, as well as lots of games which take over the full screen. Now, moving on to the cameras. So normally when I'm covering a Samsung Galaxy Fold device, I always say that there is a compromise. You're not getting the full-fledged flagship camera experience like you would be getting for that year's Galaxy Ultra device, for example. This year, although there is some compromise, we've had some big upgrades. The main thing that I've personally been asking for is that the primary camera should match what we have on the Galaxy Ultra device. And this year, that is the case. We've got the 200 megapixel primary camera. Now, granted, this has slight alterations to make it this thin. So technically, it's more like the camera from the S25 Edge than the S25 Ultra. But regardless, it's very good. You've got lots of detail, excellent depth of field and dynamic range. The ultra-wide camera is also good. Granted, it is lower resolution. The only thing that I found myself personally missing as somebody who has come from the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is the periscope zoom. Now, the zoom on here is not bad, but you've not got that extended zoom, and you've not got the 5x portraits that you also get on the S25 Ultra. Now, granted, having a periscope zoom camera would make this camera module thicker, and I'm not making excuses for Samsung because I still do feel that if you're paying more than Samsung's flagship device, then the cameras should at least match, if not exceed what you have there. I would still like to have a periscope zoom camera on a future Samsung Galaxy Fold device because it is possible. If you look at the Honor Magic V5, for instance, that does have a periscope zoom camera, even though it's a foldable, and it's still in relatively the same size footprint as the Z Fold 7. Now, on the topic of cameras, let's talk about the selfie cameras because, of course, this year we no longer have an under-display selfie camera within the main display. Now, this might be controversial, but for me personally, I've not missed it. The under-display camera on previous Galaxy Fold devices was just 4 megapixels. It wasn't great in terms of quality. And granted, you can use the regular selfie camera, or you can use the cover screen preview and use the rear-facing cameras as selfie cameras, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But when you're making video calls on something like the Z Fold 7, you are of course going to be using the main display, and doing so, you want a good quality front-facing camera. Now, is that punch hole distracting? For me, absolutely not, because every single smartphone that I've used has had some sort of a punch out or dynamic island over the past 5 years. So when I see a punch out, my mind automatically ignores it. Think of it as when you go to visit somebody's house and they have a weird smell, but the people living there don't really notice it at all. That's probably a bad example, but you see what I mean. I'm so used to punch outs that I really don't care. Maybe if it was off to the side, it'd be less distracting for a few people. For me personally, it's not a problem at all. For you, it may be a big deal, and a lot of people are also saying just not to have a camera at all. I kind of disagree with that, but I guess each their own. Now, as I mentioned earlier, let's talk about using the cover screen preview feature, which will let you use the primary cameras for selfie cameras. This will show you a preview on the cover screen and will give you better quality selfies. But there's a catch, and I think I'm probably the only reviewer to mention this. So although the primary camera is much better quality than the selfie cameras that you've got on the cover and the main display, it does have a very wide aperture, which means you're gonna get more of a shallow depth of field, more of a blurry background, shall we say. Now, this may be fine if you're just taking a selfie of yourself or maybe you and one other person. But if you're taking a group selfie like this, you may recognize some familiar faces. Then the people in the background are going to be out of focus. Now, you might like that because you might want to be the center of attention like I do. I'm kidding. So that is something to keep in mind. If you are using the primary camera for selfies, then that is an issue that you might have to keep in mind. When you take images from the regular selfie cameras, they are very good and you're not going to have this issue of people out of focus. So we've talked a lot about the positives of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, but as I mentioned towards the start of this video, it's not perfect and there are some negatives. So the battery size of the Z Fold 7 is the same as what we've got on the Z Fold 6. And surprisingly, it's also about the same as the Z Fold 1, which came out in 2019. So how has the battery life been for me using this over the past month? Well, the best way I can describe it is that it's good, not great. And that's literally what I've said for every Fold device over the past 6 years. So in my experience, it is better than the Fold 6, but I think that's because I'm not opening it up as much. As I mentioned, my usage on the Z Fold 7 is 60% on the cover display and around 40% on the main display, whereas on the Z Fold 6, it was flipped. Because the main screen was so narrow, I ended up using the primary display more. The primary display requires more battery power, it's larger, it's got lots more pixels to power. Therefore, I wouldn't get as good battery life as I've got on the Z Fold 7 on the Z Fold 6. So with my usage of 60-40, I can get through the day fine on the Z Fold 7. If you're somebody who uses the main display more, maybe you're somebody who likes to game on that big display, then you're gonna get through the battery very quickly. And I guess it goes without saying that on something like the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra or even the S25 Plus, you will get better battery life compared to the Z Fold 7. Another thing to keep in mind is that the battery life right now is the best that it's gonna be because it's fresh, it's out of the box. As time goes on, that battery life is not gonna be as good. And this is an area where Samsung is definitely behind the competition because if we look at something like the Honor Magic V5, that has a significantly larger battery, 5,820 milliamps, and it still has relatively the same size footprint as the Z Fold 7. Now, the reason for this is that Honor are using silicon carbon technology, which allows you to have a larger battery capacity in relatively the same size. Samsung seemingly is a bit more cautious when it comes to testing out new battery technology. They've not had the best track record, of course. They also have to ship out many more units compared to the competition, but I am hopeful that the next Galaxy Fold device will have silicon carbon technology, which will massively improve the battery life. Charging also hasn't changed over the past few years. I would like to have faster charging as well. So for the days where you are using this heavy, maybe you're gaming a lot, maybe you're doing lots of multitasking, then if you do want to top it up, you can do it much quicker than what you can do right now here on the Fold 7. Now, one thing that has been quite disappointing for a lot of people is the fact that we no longer have S Pen support on the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 like we've had on previous Galaxy Fold devices. I guess the question is, how much have I missed the S Pen on the Z Fold 7 over the past month? And for me personally, not so much. Now, the reason for that, I would argue, is that previous Fold devices did not have an S Pen included. You would have to get an S Pen separately and carry it around, or you would have to get a case with an embedded S Pen, which would make the very thick devices even thicker, which meant that I generally would not use one of those cases. If we had an embedded S Pen on the Fold 6 and Samsung removed that, I think personally that would have been a bigger deal, but because it was something that was not included, to me, it's not a big deal. Having said that, other devices, once again mentioning the Honor Magic V5, does have stylus support, which tells me that it is possible even in a thin device. So this is something that, once again, I would like to see from Samsung for the next Fold. S Pen support, not only for the main display, but also for the cover display like Honor have offered. Another area where the Fold 6 is better compared to the Fold 7 is with the speakers. The speakers, I'm assuming, are not as big on the Fold 7 because of its thin size compared to the Fold 6. And although they are not bad, they're just not as full as the Fold 6. And finally, let's talk about the price. So the price has not changed in the UK. This still starts at around £1,800, which is the same price that the Fold 6 started at. In the US, the price has increased slightly. Now that is down to political situations with the dollar value and things like that. So I guess it is what it is. What I can tell you is that you can still get some pre-order offers in the US anyway using my affiliate link down in the description below. That's going to give you double the storage as well as up to $50 in instant Samsung credit. Now, when you consider those pre-order offers, it does bring the price down. The UK pre-order offers, as far as I can see, have now gone, unfortunately, but I will leave some links down in the description below so you can see the latest offers and deals that you may be able to get. Now, to conclude, in my opinion, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 is an amazing smartphone, and I love that Samsung has listened to a lot of our feedback, and in particularly my feedback. I'm taking a lot of this credit because I've been talking about a lot of these things, being a Fold user since the Fold 1. And although the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 is not perfect, it is still, in my opinion, one of the best foldable smartphones out there, especially if you're in Western markets. Now, we do have a big competitor coming up, the Honor Magic V5, which I will be covering in a future video very soon. If you want to see that first, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. And to answer the question at the start of this video, will I be sticking to this? Well, for the first time since the release of the Fold 1, the answer is yes. I will be continuing to use this as my daily driver for the time coming, and we'll see if something else replaces that. That's what I think anyway. What do you guys think? Drop me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then do smash that like button for me. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV, and I'll see you next time.